Welcome back to the Local Moto podcast. This is actually the quickest we've done back-to-back podcasts. This is really impressive. We're on next level stuff here. Hope you guys enjoyed our last podcast with Jesse Ainsley. It was awesome to have him on. Today we also have another special guest. My name is Jacob Berard, here with my co-host
Lincoln Bischoff.
And today we have Jack Chambers on the podcast, professional motocross racer, and we'll let him kind of introduce himself.
What's up? Jack Chambers here. Stoked you guys could have me on. Just been racing the MXGP series at the start of the year and the Pro Supercross series here, and got the opportunity to go overseas, and it's been pretty cool so far.
Awesome. Well, we kind of wanted to start there, like your experience this past season, at MXGP, on how everything's going with that.
Yeah. So I ended up breaking my ankle. I guess it's not the greatest place to start, but I went through 7 rounds, was getting progressively better, a lot more comfortable with the bike, and ended up unfortunately going like off the track, just like a foot too far to the edge. And there was like a strap that held like an overhead tower, and it just really barely caught my rear wheel and spit me off the bike. Went around on my ankle, ended up breaking my ankle. But yeah, to start from the beginning, really, I just got a text from my trainer, Zach Osborne, and he was like, there's an opportunity for you to race in Europe. And I was like, okay, I'm interested. And so we kind of got all that figured out. And then the week after Detroit, so I found out right before Detroit. Then the week after Detroit, I started immediately on outdoors and on my KTM here. And then the day before I left, I got somebody to loan me their Kawasaki. Just to ride once, just to make sure, like, when I get there, I'm not like totally out of the order, but it ended up being that way. Anyways, I got there, the bike was completely different, totally different feel than anything I've ever ridden. I've ridden a KTM my whole life with a PW, so it was completely different. And then I went to England first. I rode the bike for 2 days, straight to Switzerland. And I had 3 days total on a Kawasaki before going and entering in a world championship. So I was a lot of nerves, not a lot of, really didn't have any expectations, just kind of ride and see where I was going to stack up. I feel like I did pretty well for the circumstances.
I'd say so,
I had in the first qualifying session, or the qualifying race, actually, I think I qualified for the qualifying race like 12th or 14th, which, I mean, I don't even know half the guys' names. Like, I didn't really know where I was.
Say their names for that matter. Yeah.
I don't. Some of them I still don't know how to pronounce. So, but yeah, I ended up having a pipe fall off in the qualifying race, and I went back to like 16th, and then they docked me. I think four or 5 positions because I didn't pass sound. So, which is obvious. My header pipe came off. So. Or it broke.
I remember watching that too and being like, "Oh, that is not good." And I remember my mom was talking to your mom at the time, and she was like, "Oh my God, they're gonna dock Jack points." And I was like, "Wait, what? Why?" And I was like, and we looked into it, like, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah. So I was running top 10 in the qualifying race, and had a small tip over, and then was running back up like 11th, 12th, and then the header pipe came off, and I had not much power, and my ears were hurting. They were ringing still later that night. It was literally so loud. This one back straightaway, just like the rollers, and I'm just like my head started to like vibrate. It was so loud. But yeah, after that, we struggled a little bit with engines at first. It's just kind of part of it. Me being new to the team, not really sure how to ride the bike as much as I was learning. He was learning with me as well, my riding style. But we got the bike mostly figured out a couple rounds in. I had one weekend where I had three DNFs. So I wasn't stoked on a lot of that, but man, I'm super happy with the way that I ended with the bike. We have a really good package. The suspension's good. Everything's was working great,
Nice.
So yeah, it really sucks that in Germany I broke my ankle, but
happens. I think we've all had some type of, one of those injuries where you're just like, dang, I wish that didn't happen. But,
Yeah.
I think we let's start like with the bike. I mean, just a little backstory. And I don't know how many of you guys watching know Jack or have watched Jack, but I've been racing with Jack since we were on like 65s and 85s. He's been racing longer than I have. And he's won like every championship at our local off-road series there is to win. And then he switched to motocross. When did you switch to motocross? When you were on like you were like on a 105, like super.
Yeah, I mean, I raced a couple moto races on a 50, but like I was never really into it. I was scared of the jumps, to be honest.
Yeah.
And my mom was just scared of it too. She couldn't watch. She would never go to the track with us. Then I went to Dade City one time on a 65, and I said I'd never race motocross again because I KO'd myself there, and I probably was like 8 or 9, and my dad's like, what'd you like? Why do you feel sick? I'm like, well, I ate a dang honey bun before I rode. He's like, well, why'd you do that? And I was like, I'm never eating a honey bun, and I'm never going to Dade City ever again.
That's fun. And how many times have you ridden at Dade City since then?
Probably 5 or 10 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we sometimes last year and the year before we would go there like on a Monday after they had a race on Sunday and just have them not touch the track and just go ride it rough with a group of 10 guys. But
yeah,
it changed whenever I was coming up through the FTR series, and I raced a couple of GCCs. Probably.
Yeah, you won some like YXC1 races, didn't you?
Yeah. There, I never really liked the northern ones just because of the rocks and stuff.
Yeah, there's no way. We were talking to Jesse about that too, and we were like, bro, how do you ride that stuff?
Sounds familiar.
He was like, bro, we'll go out and ride during the week with new A riders, and they'll be like waxing me on these trails up north. I'm like, yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, I never really got into much training off road either. Like, I just went and raced on the weekends and rode. I rode moto tracks is how I practiced. But I never really would hit the jumps. I'd go to like Bartow MX, which I was scared to hit the jumps there. Like, I just was never too into it. And then my sister, I think I was 10 or 11 and just got on 85s. And my sister was like, I want to go to Loretta's and do Loretta's. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, that's. And so we went to a qualifier. She and I both made it. I think I got like 6th, like barely squeaked in just from a qualifier. And then went to a regional, and I was like 8th or 9th. And like, you don't make it at that point. Like, you're an alternate. And so I think I made it in one class, and then the other class I wasn't going to make it. And then like a couple weeks before Loretta's, I got entered as an alternate. So the first year I made it in 2 classes, and I still wasn't really into it. Then the next year we did it again. And on the way to Freestone, my sister wanted to race Freestone so bad. And on the way to Freestone, we went to Ammonia Pass for the GNCC for me because I wanted to race GNCC.
Right.
And then I went to Freestone. I was an alternate to get into Freestone because I didn't even make the motos. Like, it was terrible. Like, I wasn't that into. I didn't really like it, honestly. And then I just started riding more and having fun. And then I started training with Dean Dias. Actually, before that, I trained with Kenny Yoho. Randy Yoho owns Dade City. His son, Kenny Yoho, used to race. So he trained me and a buddy. And then Dana Kraus, he's raced a couple FTR races. He started training and working with me and riding at my house with me. Kind of like Matt Carwat's doing with you, Lincoln. And yeah, then after that, I started training with Dean. And then I started training with Timmy. And then when I left Timmy, I went to 83 Compound. So like, I've just used many different people to learn from and gain. And then obviously that's fast forwarding to where I am now with Zach. But yeah, when I was 12 and 13, I really just didn't enjoy moto as much as I do now. And I started to get better, and all those people along helped me, have more fun and not make it as much work, just like go and just ride your dirt bike. That's why we all ride, we love it. So,
I mean, I guess we could blame Emma for your moto addiction.
Yeah. I mean, she was literally, my dad was like, if you hit this double in the yard, whatever, 30 feet. And he was like, I built this, like, if you hit it, we'll go to a qualifier. my dad still says like he watching her jump through the air is like just dollar signs flying, just like that's the end of it. Like we're
Yep.
just gonna here
We're
we
just gonna
go.
do this now.
Yep. So Emma stopped racing moto. She obviously still races FTR, but she stopped racing moto when she tore her shoulder, and then they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, and then it was just like tough to get back for her. But yeah, after that, I started to get more and more into it. My dad is, he's my biggest fan. He just loves it so much. If anyone that knows
So
him,
intense, dude.
they
Like
know.
after races, I don't even want to
Uh,
like go up to him sometimes. I'm like, he's so
yeah.
focused on whatever
I
he's
mean,
got
he's a
going on right now.
obviously he's a nice guy, but like,
Yeah.
man, he loves it. Literally
Yeah.
will do anything for me. And obviously I wouldn't be close to anywhere where I am without my parents and their experiences and people that they know in FTR. I mean, my dad's literally just cranked my bike up in the garage for no reason. Literally just cranked it up just to hear it.
Yeah, it's just him. He's just twiddling that thing. So what else
Loves
does
it.
he have to do?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah.
All right. You got any questions before we move on?
No, you can keep
All right.
reading us.
All right. Well, I figured we'll talk a little bit about the transition from racing outdoors and Supercross here in America. You've ridden a KTM, like we said, like your entire racing career. You had some successes, in your Supercross year, and then all of a sudden it was like this big news going to Europe, racing MXGP. Kind of take us through like your experiences as a professional, like starting your professional career in America and how now where you're at.
Yeah, to be honest, if you told me a year ago I'd be racing and MXGP and making money and on a basically a factory team, like I would have told you you're crazy. Just kind of where I was with riding. Go back to 2021 at Loretta's. I was gonna have surgery 2 days after I got back from Loretta's on my back, and that would have been the end of it. Like I probably would have stopped racing if I had got the surgery. And I reached out to Zach and I asked him, hey, what are you doing for your back? Like I've seen you have had problems with your back. I had a herniated disc. And that's saved me basically. I messaged the guy that he had been working with and he was like, yeah, I can see you this week. I saw him twice before Loretta's. And then literally on the way home from Loretta's, after I had a terrible week, well, not terrible. I mean, I think I got like 5th and 9th. But like in the corners, I could barely put my right leg out. Like my sciatic nerve ran all the way down my leg. Like it was terrible. I could barely walk. But I went there because I still loved racing and that's what I wanted to do. But so I canceled the surgery. I went through 2 months of more pain and just grinding it out to get my body healed and better. And now I'm in no pain and my hernia disc is completely gone. So
that was almost 3 years ago, which is crazy.
Yeah. So actually within a year of working with this trainer that I reached out to Zach that Zach used, I was in no pain and felt strong and was able to get my body on the right track. I mean, I'm still in a work in progress two times a week, just to stay healthy and keep riding.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
I've been in there too.
With Brandon.
One of I've been
Dr.
working
Lynn.
with one guy that you work with and get better.
Yeah.
Been messed up.
How can you not be messed up though after all these years of riding? I think we all, at some point it's like, man, you really got to do something like to proactive for your health. Otherwise it's going to get to the point like where yours got. It was like, imagine if you knew like some of the stuff you know now about your back 5 years prior to that. Like you'd probably be so healthy, right? I mean, it's just kind of one of those things you don't know until you learn. And it's good you figured it out and didn't get this surgery, right? Because now none of us would be able to watch you on TV. So
yeah, I mean, I'd probably be training kids. Probably, honestly, I love the sport too much to completely step away from it. But yeah, I think I definitely had a blessing there with reaching out to Zach and getting this physical therapist to help me, and now on the right path. But to finish what you're saying with your question about me transitioning to MXGP from racing Supercross, my start of, I guess, my American pro motocross career was in 2021 before Loretta's at High Point. Qualified 9th, and then I had 2 motos which were terrible. And it's just been like, if anyone that knows moto, like, it's just completely up and down. Like, you have a good race and then your next moto sucks, and then you have a great race and then you get hurt, and then you have a good season and then your next season's toast because you tore your ACL. And it's just like up and down. And if I can give any advice to anyone, like, it's just like, I never quit. Like, I never said, I mean, there were times where, I was literally laying in my bed crying myself to sleep at night because I was in so much pain. But I just woke up the next day and kept on hammering and just got after it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And now, I mean, talk about the bike a little bit. Obviously riding a Kawasaki now, riding KTM your whole life. What are like the big differences did you notice? And are you used to the bike? Are you still learning? And what is something you noticed that different between the two?
Just like, to be honest, the feel of the frame. It's a lot less rigid. I feel like the bike is a lot more balanced in the ruts. And I mean, when I went straight to Switzerland and started racing, and like, instead of just practicing on a bone dry track that's basically concrete in England, which is what we had, yeah, it felt great. The ruts, the bike was fast. Obviously you can't go out and buy the bike that I'm racing,
Right.
especially with being in MXGP has different rules than here in the States, and they're allowed to do a lot more stuff
over there.
Yeah, so we have a shaved frame, carbon subframe, carbon to tank, lighter triple clamps, air forks,
all the cool trick stuff. Anything you can
imagine that. I mean, tie bolts to make the bike lighter. It's all about making the bike as light as you possibly can and putting an engine in it that can just fly. So I definitely feel like the thing with the struggles, like you see Tom Vial come here, he's struggling on the bike here because it's not the same bike he's ridden in Europe. And a lot of people don't. Maybe people do know that because there's a lot of people talking about it in Vital MX and Pulp or whoever else is talking about that stuff, but they don't change the bike as much here, and especially with the KTM group in Europe, like KTM group is top of the line. So and here it should be, and it has been. They just haven't progressed and done as much stuff as some of the riders are saying that they want. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's just completely different worlds. It's obviously still racing dirt bikes. You're still doing the same thing. MXGP is an 18 round series, and Pro Motocross is 11. 12.
Yeah, I think it's 11 now. Yeah, it used to be 12.
But in 18 round series, you ride double on the weekends as you do in the States. So
right, because you got the race on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. So I mean, on Saturday it's free practice, untimed, basically, time qualifying, and then time qualifying gets your pick for the qualifying race. And then on Sunday you have warm up, Moto 1, Moto 2. So you're almost riding double. I mean, on a pro motocross race day, you have qualifying 1, qualifying 2, Moto 1, Moto 2. So yeah, you're riding 60% of what you do in the States as you do in Europe.
Wow.
I have a question because obviously we don't have a qualifying race over here. What's that like mentally to prepare yourself for another race almost?
Also, congratulations. I mean, you got some points. I had to learn because I hadn't watched MXGP that much. I didn't realize that if you get top 10 in the qualifying race, it adds to your championship points. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it doesn't. So it adds to your championship points for the overall year, but it doesn't change your overall for that weekend. Yeah. So like Prado has such a big points lead because he's won so many qualifying races. So he comes out of the weekend with sometimes 60 points. 25 for 2 motos and then 10 points for the qualifying race. So he got 60 points a weekend. And if we had that in states, like imagine how many points Jet would have. He could have won the series 5 rounds early. Like,
That
or,
would be insane.
who knows? So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest, it's just like a test for like racecraft on the track. Every single track. Obviously, I've never ridden, and all of the guys there, except maybe a couple that have, all of them actually have probably raced them before just because of racing EMX. So EMX races go to most of those tracks in Europe. Obviously, you don't have like the Indonesia rounds, Argentina, Turkey, like those places, they don't have EMX. So if anybody's moved up from EMX to MX2 class, they may have not ridden those tracks, but 95% of the kids that I'm racing against have ridden those tracks. So to be able to race against them and follow them versus, and my biggest strategy in free practice is to follow guys, and same with time qualifying, because like, you take me to any of most of the rounds here in the States, like I've ridden the track most of the time. I've ridden the track before. Like I haven't ridden Washougal, Budds Creek, couple of Unadilla. Some of those tracks I haven't ridden here, but over there, every round is new. So that's what I'm most bummed about for next year. Like I've missed now, I think 4 or 5 rounds. So I don't have that experience from that track. So, the rounds next year that I go to that I have raced at, I'll probably feel a lot more comfortable.
Right.
Not that I should have a better result there than any other track. Like, obviously I can get my speed up pretty quick, but I think my biggest thing is to follow in the qualifying, pick out somebody, come in, look at the lap chart and see who's on top, and then go out on the track right behind him and try to pace him. That normally works. And then next thing I know, I'm P1, P2 on the board. And then it's just like, you keep going down and down, and then you come back in and you're like 11th. And then you're like, shoot, like you just said P1 on the board. It's like, well, you gotta go faster. All right, go back out again. So, I mean, I've had a couple times where I sat P1 for, a majority of the session. And then those last couple laps, it's just like everyone just starts knocking you down because they get more comfortable. The track's getting faster. And then, you got to go out and pick it up that much more. And then, but in a way, like none of that, like for here in the States, I feel like qualifying matters maybe less than it does in Europe because of the point system in Europe. And whatever you qualify in Europe is your gate pick for both motos. So say you qualify 20th here in the States, you get 20th gate pick for the first moto. Your first moto finish is your second moto gate pick here.
Right.
But in Europe, your first moto finish doesn't matter for your gate pick. If you got 35th gate pick because you had a DNF in the qualifying race, you have 35th pick for both motos.
Dang. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's
no good.
So you got to make 3 races count. Over here, 2 matter.
Yeah, and manage the whole 18 round series. So a lot of I'm not one of few that have gone out. There's been multiple guys that have been running in the championship lead. I think every person that's held the red plate this year has missed a round or 2.
Wow.
Just because it's such a long series and there's so many different things. I mean, the red plate switched, I think 5 or 6 different times.
Right.
So as we don't see that as much here in the States. I don't know if it's just the ability of the riders or, we just have the Lawrence brothers and that are just above everyone.
I think it's just that. Yeah. At this point.
I would have to agree. But yeah, I mean, with there's a guy that won the qualifying race this weekend in Uddevalla, Sweden. I mean, there's been times I've caught and passed him and beat him and finished ahead of him. And then there's times where like he'll finish first and then I'll finish 10th, or the person that just won last weekend may not win this weekend. Like I feel like the top 9 to 10 guys, I guess, are like
much
win.
more equal.
So
yeah.
Like I feel like that gives me a lot of confidence where I finished before. Like I've been in the positions to beat guys that have won races, that have had podiums. So I
That
think
gives you confidence.
with a good off season and testing of the bike and stuff, I feel like I can have a lot better showing next year, to stay healthy and can complete the whole season.
Yeah, I think we'll get to that talking about kind of your future at the end. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask, because I've always been curious, right? We see what we see on TV at these American tracks. We see the MXGP tracks, and what is really like the difference in your opinion? Do you like one or the other? Are they really like that different? Like, I mean, you go like, it looks to me like everything over there is hard packed. There's not as many jumps. It's crazy fast
Except
and rough. Right, except and then over here, it's like it's completely different. But from your perspective as a rider who's ridden both, I'd be curious.
I feel like the tracks form different. We have those guys, from 30th to 70th place that are trying to qualify and make it in. They're coming into the corners a lot slower and they're hitting the brakes sooner. So we're braking bumps start way sooner here in the States. So you're having to jump bumps and you see Jet doing. So I feel like in Europe, there's a lot different. I feel like they use different equipment too. Here, they soak it. They just flood the track and they rip the crap out of it, deep as they can go. And then it's just train track ruts. You're just following like this. There has been a round like that, but they didn't rip it. They just literally dozered it across, watered it, and that's just the soil. Like, I feel like we race the soil more than like cultivate the track and like make it ripped or things like that. I think that's what changes the tracks a lot, and that's a big difference. And then the riding styles. The gnarliest track I've ever ridden in my life was France, and I actually did my best there. Well, finishes don't show because I had a chain snap in the second moto while I was running 7th, with 6th place right ahead of me. But at that track, I don't know if you saw the video of Jago Gertz coming down the steep hill, and he just swapped and crashed went right over the bars.
Yeah.
I was literally right beside him, right behind him, coming down that hill, watched it happen, and every lap after that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm scared. I'm literally scared to go down this hill. It's like coming to a big hill climb at a GNCC, and you're like, well, I don't know where to go. Like, you get to the top of the hill, and you're just like, you just got to go.
Which line do I pick? Yeah.
Yeah. You can't think about it, because if you do, you could end up like him. And I don't even think he really made a mistake. It's just he barely got to this edge of one rut and then just kind of swiveled them. Then his front wheel missed, and then next thing you know, he's just over the bars. And that track was insane. I mean, I wouldn't say it's one of the roughest. It was rough, really, really choppy, and the ruts were just insane. I didn't get to race Lommel, obviously. I really wanted to, just to experience it and then know what training, what testing, suspension setup I'll have to have for next year, because we don't have really much like Lommel other than the Kroom front pit. And they really, like, you have to build something. I know there's a couple, private tracks that have, sand tracks like Lommel, but it's just, you can't replicate a race without racing. So.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. All right. Well, kind of talking about, a few future in the sport. I mean, obviously we talked about your ankle being broken. You've taken some time off, come back to the States for a little bit. How's your progression looking with that? When are you looking back at getting back, to riding full time, training, all that stuff? And then what's your future in the racing look like, next year, going back to MXGP and then doing that and then, beyond?
Yeah. So I've had 8 weeks off the bike. And I've been back on the bike for 4 days. Tomorrow will be my 5th day riding. And then I'll ride Friday again, and then probably 3 days next week. And I'll go back to England. I'll probably go down to Italy, test suspension, back up to Belgium, and ride the next week after that. And then I'll race a British Championship race, which earlier in the season I did and won the first one.
You won that. Yeah, that was awesome.
And then their next weekend is Italy, and then that weekend after that is Madderley Basin in England, which is only like 30 minutes from where I live. So got 3 weekends in a row, but I have 3 weeks until I have to be at a race. So I think I have enough time to get prepared, and then the British Championship will be a good setup and test for where I am. With 4 days on the bike, I already feel pretty solid. I think I just need a couple more weeks just to get my hands back strong and take the beating again, and just kind of get my eyes used to going at those speeds, because you can go as fast as you want at the practice track and beat the stopwatch, but when you have to send it down a straightaway 6 inches from another guy, like, just
Totally.
a different intensity. So
All right. Yeah. So then after this season's over, you plan to race MXGP again the next season?
yeah, I do have an opportunity to do like an off-season series, but not 100% sure on when that's gonna come out or if it's gonna happen yet. So, but yeah, after that I'll be training full off season. I don't really get much break because I've had my break already with 8 weeks off. So, which that really wasn't much of a break. I was 2 weeks after I broke my ankle. I was on the airdyne with my left foot up and my right foot on the pedal, and just keep on training. Can't lose much. I wouldn't say no days off, but like, it just had to just keep. Obviously, I still take days off. Like, normally Sunday's my day off, and then Wednesdays are pretty light, but normally Wednesdays are just a recovery cycle in gym, and every other day after that I'll be riding and cycling and training.
Wow. All right. That's exciting, man. I'm so thankful we were able to get you on. And I think all of us and everyone watching you, here in Florida, super proud of everything that you're doing over there. And I think we're excited to keep watching you. So, keep getting healthy, keep riding. We're all following. For all you viewers out there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also watch this on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And I'll have everything linked down below for all of Jack Chambers' socials down below, so you guys can go follow him on Instagram, follow along on his journey on all the cool stuff he's doing, and give him a shout out. So, anything else you guys want to say?
No, sir.
No, Jack.
No, yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right, well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
All right, we will see you soon, and stay healthy.
All right, thank you.
See you, man.